has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast. All right, we go into hour 3 here on C2C on a Thirsty Thursday, along with Carver High and Ferrall in New York City on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Watch us every day, all day, always, and forget about everybody else. It'll make you feel better about yourself. The Warriors, the Dubs. You see how much money they're worth, Carver High?
I did see that, and there were no games last night, so I just have a few other things for you NBA-wise. And the Warriors was announced today. Not really announced, but they put out that report, Sportico, the highest valued NBA team, $9.14 billion, the Warriors. So they are now ahead of the Lakers, Knicks, all these other teams. The Warriors, Scotty, the crown jewel of the NBA in terms of value. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, look, they're almost catching up to the Dallas Cowboys when you think about it. They're just over $10 billion. It's amazing. Really, if you look at it, I think obviously all the championships got them to this point, and having Steph Curry. I don't think anyone else is really that invested in Draymond Green's behavior and insanity and all of his nonsense. This is about, for me, Steve Kerr and Steph Curry have built this team and their owners into this $9 billion behemoth. And the Knicks, obviously, are worth tons of money because they're in New York. So I think it's strange.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Dubs at the top of the list.
Yeah, the Knicks were $8.3 billion second. Now, there were 3 NBA teams in the top 10, 6 NFL teams, and 1 Major League Baseball team. I think you can know who that one baseball team. And maybe not, It is the Yankees, but I guess you would have thought maybe the Dodgers too, right? I mean, the Dodgers, you would think, and the Yankees would be about the same evaluation at this point. But the Cowboys are 1 at 10.3, then the 3 NBA teams, then the Yankees, and then Rams, Giants, Patriots, Niners, Jets to round out the top 10.
Was the Dodgers
most valuable
ahead of the Yankees?
No, Yankees were first in baseball, $7.9 billion. The Yankees were for this year. So the most valuable baseball team that there is. So how about that? Speaking of value, this time for fans, believe it or not, it's very rare you hear this in sports. Suns owner Matt Ishbia is slashing concession prices at games. This is like what Blank does for the Falcons, right? Down there at Mercedes. $2 for a dog, $2 for a water, $2 for a soda, $2 for chips, $2 for popcorn. Giving back to the fans, slashing concession prices. That'll win you some votes at the window, that's for sure.
What I would do with $2 popcorn, I'd set records.
$2 popcorn. Yeah, just keep filling up that tub like you get at all those places. Dame time. Lifetime deal with Adidas. They only gave him that because he actually finally won something, the NBA Cup. So now he gets a lifetime deal with Adidas after winning the NBA Cup. Congratulations to Dame Time for that.
I've never worn his shoes. It's funny. I've worn everyone's shoes in basketball, basically, except his. I think I'm going to keep it that way.
Keep it that way. Why not? Why get involved? Here you go. I've got the best and the worst against the spread in the NBA as we get ready to restart play this evening. The Cavs, 19-8 against the number. Then the Raptors, Grizzlies, Thunder, Clippers, and Rockets. The worst teams are the Wizards, Pelicans, Suns, Pacers, and Kings on the naughty side.
Well, there you go. So look at the teams that cover. The only one that doesn't win is the Raptors.
That's it. They're the only one. They've covered a lot of games this year, despite being one of the worst teams in the NBA. All right, lots of games tonight. 13 of them, to be exact. So let's start rolling through the NBA. The Jazz are in Detroit tonight against the Pistons. Pistons minus 4.5, 227.5 the total.
Yeah, I like the Pistons at home. I mean, let's face facts. They've been playing good ball, and they're coming off a win over the Heat in overtime. They put a $1.25 on the Heat. They're going to beat the Jazz and cover.
The Thunder, coming off that loss in Vegas on Tuesday night, where they really did absolutely nothing against the Bucks, they now go to Orlando, where they will see the Magic. Thunder minus 6.5 now, 209.5 the total.
Yeah, I still have a problem with no Franz, no Banchero, and you're up against a 20-5 team. Now, I know they got smoked by the Bucks. I think it's irrelevant. I think they get right back on the horse and win tonight in Orlando at the Kia and cover.
Two of the worst in the NBA. The Hornets and the Wizards in D.C. tonight. Minus 4.5 for the Hornets, 226.5 the total.
I don't want anything to do with this. I really don't. It's such a disaster.
Yeah, you can't bet this game.
But I would take.
Can't bet it.
I'd take the Hornets. I really would. That's how bad the Wizards are.
The Wizards are pathetic. The Celtics are home tonight. Celtics 21-5 on the year. The Bulls are in town, in Beantown. Minus 14.5. 2 tutties and a hook for the Celtics tonight. How about this total? 240.5 the total. Look out.
God, I don't think they cover 14.5 against Vus and Levine and Lonzo. I'm going to take the number with the Bulls. I think they'll be in the game. I think the Celtics will win the game, won't cover.
Yeah, those teams are both going to hack up a lot of threes tonight, man. A lot of threes with the Bulls and the Celtics. That's for sure. The Nets are in Toronto. We mentioned Toronto was one of those teams on that best against the spread, but they're 7-20 this year. They stink. And they're actually favored tonight. See, Toronto's on that list because they're usually getting points.
Right.
Tonight, they're laying points. Minus 2.5 against the Nets. 217.5 the total.
Yeah, I like Brooklyn here and the 4 points. This reminds me of the Carolina Panthers. They hadn't been favored in 33 games. They were favored by 2.5. I took the Cowboys. The Cowboys smoked them. I think the Raptors win and cover bets against the spread because they're always a big fat dog. Tonight, they're favored by 4. I'll take the Nets and the points.
The Pelicans are in Houston tonight against the Rockets. The Pelicans, they stink. They've lost 4 in a row. Again, they're 5-22 on the year, and they're getting 8.5 in H-Town, 217.5 the total.
Christ, I saw it at 10.5. That it's 8.5 is even more delicious to me. Give me Şengün and the Rockets at home at the Toyota to lay the Pelicans out flat.
One of the good ones tonight, you mentioned this at the top of the show, the Warriors are in Memphis against the Grizz. Grizzlies now minus 1.5. 236.5 is the total.
They're so tough. They are so much tougher than the Warriors. It's not even funny. They're the 2 in the West. Give me the Grizzlies at home at the FedEx off Beale Street. I like Memphis to win and beat the Dubs.
Atlanta in San Antonio against the Spurs this evening. We have minus 1.5 for the Spurs, 233.5, big total.
I think Atlanta's better than the Spurs. Give me the Hawks on the streets off the Riverwalk.
I'll slide one more in here. Clippers are in Dallas against the Mavericks. Mavs minus 4.5, 223.5.
I kind of like Dallas. I'd lean Mavs at home at the American Airlines in Big D over the Clippers. I think the Clippers have been really good, but mostly I think against teams that are average and at the end to it, they've started to win. I don't like them here tonight in Dallas.
I got 4 other games, including the Knicks and the Timberwolves, that we'll do when we come back to finish out the NBA.
I mean, that is going to be a game tonight of the Target, and I think they're really playing well of late. The T-Wolves look like the team that went on a deep run last year all of a sudden.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We're still hitting some of the leftover NBA games tonight. We got 4 more to hit.
We do have 4 more to hit. Why don't we begin in Phoenix, where the Pacers are in town for the Suns this evening. Suns minus 6.5, 235.5 the total.
I like the Suns, but how about a cover? How about middle of this? I think the Pacers show up tonight, 6.5. I bet the game's better than that. I think the Suns barely win.
The Knicks and the Timberwolves, game of the night, I guess you could say, with Cat returning to Minneapolis to face his old team. Of course, Randall and DiVincenzo facing their old team on the other side. T-Wolves now up to 3.5 as the favorites, 214.5 the total.
Yeah, I already bet it. T-Wolves minus 3, so I got it in before it moved. I think they'll beat the Knicks tonight. I want the Knicks to win. Obviously, I like the Knicks. I like watching the Knicks. I don't want to bet on them in this game because I think Minnesota's playing great ball. And Edwards is a badass. And I think Randall and DiVincenzo are going to want a piece. And I think the only one that cares about it on the other side is Cat. But he's good for a double-double no matter what anyway, maybe even a trip dub. But to me, the whole team is Brunson and Cat, right? It's just like a pick-and-roll machine. So I think the T-Wolves can get it done tonight at the Target the way they've been playing, and particularly of late, they've been good.
Nuggets are in Portland against the Blazers. Nuggets now up to 8.5, 234.5 the total.
Yeah, I don't think the Nuggets are as good as everybody else does. I really don't. I'm going to go rogue on this one tonight and take the 8.5 at the Moda in Rip City. Why is it so low? If they're playing this big badass Joker and all of his triple doubles, and you'd think it'd be 12 at least, because the Blazers stink. I'm going to go high risk, low amount, low money on the Blazers and the number. Something crazy has to happen tonight somewhere.
Something crazy does have to happen somewhere. And finally, the Lakers are in Sacramento against the Kings tonight. This is now minus 5.5 for the Kings. 228.5 is the total. I know LeBron was at practice this morning. I would have to assume is he actually going to come and play tonight, Scotty? I think he's going to be back in there, LeBron, tonight. He did do this. He is listed as questionable officially for this evening.
I mean, this comes down to Sabonis against Davis to me, and I think the game might be tighter than 5. I like the Kings to win this game and the Lakers to cover the 5. And I think the Lakers stink.
The Lakers do stink. That's for sure. And we'll see what they can do in Sacramento tonight. Night in the NBA.
The King.
Yeah, they do. All right, hockey.
Everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does love hockey. Wings beat the Flyers 6-4 last night. Leafs beat the Stars. Panthers smashed the Wild. Utah won in overtime against the Canucks. You talked with Gabe about that earlier. And the Ducks, I just picked the wrong night with the Jets. I thought that the Sharks would beat him at the Tank on Tuesday night. Instead, they lost at the Duck Pond last night to Anaheim. So yeah. I was wrong. I missed the Jets by a night as an upset on that California trip. There was some trades. The Rangers, who have been trying to shake things up because they've been horrible for the last few weeks. Capo Caco gone off to Seattle. Former second overall pick. I guess it's his fault. Will Borgen and a third and a fifth round pick go back to the Rangers. They screwed him up nice. Good development by the Rangers with Caco. And the Blues traded Pierre-Olivier Joseph to the Penguins for future considerations. You get future considerations going back to St. Louis down the line. So there you go, a couple trades for you.
I know this sounds crazy, but the Penguins are 1 point out of a wild card. They're 500 now, and they've actually been playing good hockey of late. I've been watching them. I'm going to watch them tonight.
I got to tell you, like the East really sucks because I can't believe that all these teams are still a lot like look, Pittsburgh have been playing good lately, but they had some awful stretches. The Rangers, the Islanders, like they're all 2-3 points out of the last playoff spot. I know there's miles and miles and miles of hockey left to play this year, but those teams have all played pathetic, and they're only 2 or 3 points back of being in a playoff spot. It's just a mediocre middle of the conference right now is pretty much what it is, and they've kept everybody alive going forward with Tampa and Ottawa in those spots. Let's get to tonight, which we do have a couple of those teams in action. St. Louis is in Tampa against the Lightning this evening as St. Louis is heading out on the road. As of right now, Lightning minus 215 plus $1.76 for the Blues and a 5.5.
I love the Lightning, the way they've been playing, and they're at home at Amalie. I'm on Tampa tonight here. The Blues have been tough, but I think they go down tonight in the Gulf Coast.
The Devils, who have been excellent on the road, I think they've won 6 out of 7 on the road, are in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. Devils minus 225 on the road, Jackets plus $1.84 and a 6.5 here.
Well, I'm not laying 225, so I'll puck line the Devils and hope they win by 2.
The Kings, who have been on the East Coast for what feels like weeks, now stop in Philadelphia to see the Flyers. Kings right now, road favorites, minus $1.60. Flyers plus 135 and a 5.5.
Flyers haven't been that bad. We've talked about the Russian. He's been great, but the reality is the Kings are better. I think they get back on the saddle tonight. They lost to the Penguins the other night. I say they beat the Flyers.
Penguins are in Nashville against the Predators this evening. Predators minus $1.60 at home. Penguins plus $1.35. 5.5 the total.
Penguins have quite a history with the Predators, like kicking their ass in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'll take the Penguins at $1.34 on the streets, getting it done in Smashville.
Seattle is in Chicago against the Blackhawks. They are road favorites there. They have beat up the Blackhawks over the last couple of years. Minus $1.40 plus 116 for the Hawks and a 5.5.
I mean, I saw the Blackhawks beat the Capitals the other night. Give me the Hawks on the west side.
I got a few others we'll do when we come back. A few other hockey games.
Okay.
Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because there is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. Because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I want the mid-major teams. I want the A-10 to get 3 bids. I want, the Missouri Valley Conference to get an extra bid. I want these teams to go ahead that are 1-bid leagues and give some of these other teams opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. Simply put, folks, when we get to the tournament, we don't care about all these teams that are big-time teams.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
NHL games because everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does love hockey. Ottawa is in Calgary tonight against the Flames. Ottawa, the road favorite here. I just told you they have that last spot in the East right now, minus $1.46, plus 122 for the Flames and a 5.5.
I mean, honestly, can the Flames win a game at home? Really, what is happening here? They lose every game? Win a game at home. I'll take them at $1.22 at home over the Senators.
Good one in Edmonton tonight. Bruins and the Oilers getting together. Of course, the Bruins coming off the Pasternak winner the other night. Oilers minus 185 now. I'm seeing it up to. Bruins plus $1.50, 6.5.
I'll puck line the Oilers. I think they'll beat the Bruins tonight handily.
The Canucks are at the T-Mobile against Vegas this evening. Vegas, of course, favored at home, minus $1.66, plus 135 for the Canucks and a 5.5.
I like Vegas here, and I don't think it's too crazy, that price. It's bad, but it's not too crazy. I'm on Vegas.
And finally, the heavy lumber of the night for Colorado at the Tank against San Jose, minus 275 on the road, plus 220 for the Sharks and a 6.5.
I can get that goal and a half at minus 115 with San Jose. Give me the Sharks with a goal and a half at minus $1.15. Take another high risk tonight at the Tank. Celebrini and Company.
Sharks, Celebrini and Company. There you go. Hockey.
Everybody loves hockey.
Everybody does. This is not the best night for college rack. There were a few games, of course, last night. It's not great. Alabama beat North Dakota 97-90 last night. How about this kid, Trayson Eaglestaff? Hell of a name, too, on North Dakota. He had 40 points against Bama. First player on a mid-major to have a 40-point game against a top 10 team since 2012. So how about that? Your boy, Eaglestaff, going off last night for North Dakota.
The Eagle has landed, Carver High, with a 40-burger against the Tide and the cover.
That's pretty good. Nice job
by the way, the kid
Eaglestaff.
that's from there, from Grand Forks, he had 20 and 13 boards with 3 steals and 3 blocks.
Wow. Yes, he had a good game, a very good game, which is why they were there. UConn beat Xavier 94-89. in overtime. Memphis beat Virginia 64-62. The jump man last night, Oklahoma beat Michigan 87-86. Yes, cover there indeed. And Temple, that is right, Temple getting involved as they won their 2000th game in program history. They are the 6th team in men's hoops to reach that number. And the other five teams, Scotty, are, North Carolina, Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, heavy hitter clubs. So that win over Davidson, 62-61. The Owls flying to 2,000 wins. How about that?
All you can think of is Chaney and the Owls and all the great glory years. They've had a great basketball tradition in Philly forever. That's pretty impressive. 2,000 wins for the Temple Owls.
Indeed. All right, tonight's action is it's not great. I'm not going to lie to you here. I mean, it's tough. But I was able to scrape together a few of these for you. Buffalo visiting Georgia, 27.5. You do have UC Irvine. There it is. The Anteaters visiting Belmont tonight. That's a hell of a mid-major game that they have. Texas has New Orleans coming into town, and Merrimack continues their West Coast swing as they will stop at St. Mary's tonight to see the Gales this evening with another big number.
Look, St. Mary's is coming off a loss. Merrimack's coming off a cover against Stanford. Give me Merrimack. Give me New Orleans and the Fat Burger. Give me Belmont and 2.5 at home. They'll beat the Anteaters at Belmont. The only team that'll cover a big number tonight is Georgia. They're 9-1. They're going to rake Buffalo's ass.
Yeah, the rest of the slate's tough. I mean, you got Farellamine against Wyoming tonight.
It's bad.
Lindenwood against Tennessee Tech. Chicago State visiting Grand Canyon. Chicago State off
is winless. They're 0-12. They're going to get spanked.
There you go. After Adam and Leftovers, I will give you Max Fried from that press conference yesterday. I'll do that in Leftovers later on before we get out of here. Yes,
so
Max
proud.
Fried.
Did you see the name of his dog, Apollo Fried?
Apollo Fried. How about that? Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because there is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. Because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I want the mid-major teams. I want the A-10 to get 3 bids. I want, the Missouri Valley Conference to get an extra bid. I want these teams to go ahead that are 1-bid leagues and give some of these other teams opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. Simply put, folks, when we get to the tournament, we don't care about all these teams that are big-time teams.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's Adam's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Adam Caplan is our NFL insider. It's his 40th birthday today, and we're wishing him the very best on his birthday in Philadelphia. You can follow him on X at Caplan NFL. He's covered the NFL for almost 30 years, and we have the luxury of having a double shot every Thursday with the great Mr. Caplan to talk NFL, and we always start with Thursday night intel before the Broncos go to Lipstick City to take on Orange Sherbert and the Chargers of Jim Harbaugh. We do not have his mic on, which is highly unfortunate right now. We are having a situation which is developing after all of the birthday partying and all of the cake and all of the drinking and shots. Do we still not have Adam? Let's try one more time. No, we do not have Adam. Unbelievable. Now, Carver High, at the very least, I want to ask you about the story you were talking about previously. The flexing of the Bills game.
Yes, we have the flexing of the Bills game, which is going to be Sunday. They moved them from 1 o'clock to 4:25. People saying, why are they doing this? The Patriots suck. Well, that's because the only other choice to watch at 4:25 is the Dolphins and the Niners, and both those teams suck. So why not watch Josh Allen drop 50 points on the Patriots in the 4:25 window instead of that awful game that they're going to have there? Why not?
I mean, they might as well. So let's talk a little bit more about this game tonight in L.A. at SoFi. Of course, the Broncos won the Week 6 matchup at home in Denver, and they would clinch a wild card spot in the AFC if they win tonight and are going for their 5th straight win. How impressed have you been with the Broncos?
Very impressed. You're talking about a team that had 5.5 win total before the season started. Rookie quarterback, not even the top rookie quarterback that was taken last year in the draft. Most people said, oh, he's crazy taking Bo Nix, could have had J.J. McCarthy, etc. But he's done a very nice job. Sean Payton, the quarterback whisperer, getting them going. And now all they need to do is win one game, whether it's tonight, next week, the week after, one game, and they will be in the playoffs, Scotty.
The only key player out is second-year corner Riley Moss, who has a knee problem. He'll miss his 3rd straight game. Are we going to try again with Adam to see if we have him hooked up right now? Do we have Adam Caplan? We do not have Adam Caplan. So we have nothing but problems here with Adam. I refuse to go back to Adam a 3rd time because a 3rd time will be a swing and a miss, Carver High. I do not understand what happened because we were talking to Adam in the break. We were wishing him happy birthday. He was saying that the Steelers suck and that the Eagles kicked their ass. And he said that your Bills were going to be flexed. And then we haven't heard a word from him since. It's unbelievable.
It is strange how that happens sometimes. Everything seems like it's going just fine. And then the rug just gets yanked out from underneath you as you're about to get the rug gets yanked right out from under you. And it's that's the for the birthday stuff. Sometimes that happens on your birthday. Things don't always go as they are planned. And Mafia has assured us.
I'm actually hearing him now. Do we have this guy?
Yes,
this is unbelievable.
Yes, I think we do. He's there now.
On his birthday.
Yes, he's there. Adam. There he is. He's happy now.
There he is, finally. What a disaster. Why don't you pick it up by talking about the Chargers, because we just talked about the Broncos.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, with the Chargers, you notice since J.K. Dobbins, Scott, their starting running back, got hurt, he's on injured reserve with a knee injury. They've looked like a different offense. They cannot run the ball effectively. They're down in scoring. They just don't look right. Their defense is still competitive. That's not the issue. The issue is offensively. They just don't move the ball well enough. And quite frankly, I understand why a lot of people like the Broncos tonight. And Mike's right. This is a big game for the Broncos. They're trying to clinch a playoff spot. They know if they win tonight, they do that. And look, I was with the odds makers to start the season. Their future total was 5.5. I didn't even like the over. I mean, who knew that Bo Nix could play this well? And I got to be honest with you, Scott. People are talking about Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year. How about Sean Payton?
I'm not going to argue with that. I said earlier on the show today that I've never liked him, but I respect the job he's doing in Denver. I think he's done an incredible job in year 2 being in this position that they're in. He wanted his own quarterback. He got Nick's. He's developed him. The kid looks like a winner. Their defense is stout. I know you have to be impressed by him.
Oh, yeah. And Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, who used to be the Broncos head coach. Remember, this is the team last year that gave up 70 points against the Dolphins. They've been mostly lights out since then. They do everything really well. They have a relatively young team. They've done a great job. And look, we'll give Chargers and Harbaugh credit, but they've come down to earth here. They're having trouble scoring. The Broncos, I like them to win this game outright. By the way, it's 2.5. The Chargers are 2.5. I actually like the Broncos to win this game outright.
Okay, so let's talk about the Cousins situation.
Yeah. First of all, let me explain the contract because I think some people are confused. Next year, his base salary is actually very reasonable, $27.5 million. It's fully guaranteed. They're not going to cut him. They'll look to move him the best way that they can. He also has a $10 million roster bonus that becomes fully guaranteed in March. So you're really trading $37.5 million. Still reasonable. Now, other teams that will be interested, and there will be teams interested, Scott, looking around the league, and I put my list together, there are 7 teams that I've talked to who cannot tell you exactly who their starting quarterback is going to be next year. And we'll talk more about this as we go forward, but there are only 2 quarterbacks who are going to go in the first round in this coming draft in 2025 in May. Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback, and Shedeur Sanders of Colorado. That's it right now. So there's just not enough good quarterbacks to go around. I know Cousins is wildly inconsistent, terrible over the last 5 games. Before that, actually playing pretty well. But the Falcons here are saying, look, it didn't work. When you bench a quarterback who's making over $60 million with everything that was due to him this season, they're telling you what they think. They're done with him. They're going to Michael Penix, who shocked us when you and I were doing the draft coverage. We were shocked at that draft pick. But now's the time. And I know publicly they'll never admit that, hey, it's the Giants, but it is the Giants. They're at home. This is a game, by the way, the Giants have 20 players, Scott, on their injury report. This is a good game for Penix to do well in his first appearance as a starting quarterback. He's a super aggressive thrower, Scott. That's what the Falcons and other teams like. By the way, the Raiders loved him for this past draft. I'm looking for Penix to do very well in his first start. And they are loaded, by the way, in offense. They got to get Kyle Pitts the football, and that starts against those Giants.
All right, and I still think they stink. The Buccaneers are way better. The Buccaneers are going to win the division. All right, let's look at key injuries between Houston and Kansas City at Arrowhead Saturday.
Yeah, and how about Patrick Mahomes? It's his right ankle, by the way. Now, I know it's been reported as a high ankle sprain. There are a couple types of high ankle sprains. Our friend Dr. David Chow could explain it to you. There's the typical 6 to 8 week high ankle sprain where there's no way he's playing this week. There's a mild high ankle sprain where you don't ask the quarterback to move around very much, but he can play through it. Mahomes, by the way, took every single first team snap he took. He's ready to go. If something happens in the game, Carson Wentz would replace him. Carson Wentz, I'm told, actually had a very good offseason. By the way, Hollywood Brown now should be able to play his first action coming off of that bad shoulder injury, which he's coming back a little bit ahead of schedule here. And let me tell you, if the weather holds up on Saturday, bombs away. Hollywood Brown could run now for the Texans. Their offensive line, Scott, has been the problem. I know people are on C.J. Stroud. What's happened? Why has he regressed? I'm not excusing the way that he's played, but they've had major offensive line protection problems, taking too many sacks. He's also not been decisive, and that's been the problem with C.J. Stroud this season.
Well, at least they beat the Dolphins and played well defensively with all those takeaways. When we come back, we'll talk about the Steelers and Ravens in Baltimore and get a dose to bust a cap in your ass on his birthday, no less.
Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because there is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I want the mid-major teams. I want the A-10 to get 3 bids. I want, the Missouri Valley Conference to get an extra bid. I want these teams to go ahead that are 1-bid leagues and give some of these other teams opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. Simply put, folks, when we get to the tournament, we don't care about all these teams that are big-time teams.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Birthday today. In honor of that, we'll hit a couple of big games. How about the Steelers and Ravens on Saturday in the Charm City?
Yeah, and George Pickens again out. 3rd straight game with a hamstring problem. For whatever reason, Scott, they're still not playing Mike Williams as much as they should. He could have been a bigger factor against the Eagles as he was 2 weeks ago, but they didn't get him the ball enough, didn't get enough snaps. That's problematic. They got to get him on the field more, but it's all about getting Pickens healthy for the playoffs. Deshaun Elliott, who, I've been talking about Deshaun Elliott for weeks. He's been terrific. Great signing for them. He is out again with a hamstring injury. Dante Jackson should play, by the way. He got some light work in. He hurt his back in the game against Philly last week. They're pretty optimistic he should play. Now, this one just happened. For the Ravens, Rashad Bateman, who's one of their starting receivers, he's had foot problems on and off in his career. They had a light practice today. He didn't work. And remember, Deontay Johnson's not going to play for them. They sent him home. They mutually agreed. So they're a little bit light at wide receiver. That's a little bit of a concern, but your Steelers are beat up physically. That's the problem right now. They got too many guys hurt. That's why it makes it hard for them to win this game.
Do you think that game would have been better if Najee didn't fumble at the 20? That the game would have been closer.
And by the way, how about that call where clearly Quinyon Mitchell threw punches? Remember when Darnell Washington pushed Darius Slay to the back, and he got called for
Slay threw punches too.
Foul. Yeah, but the Eagles threw punches. That was there were. I'm told there were 3 missed calls. Clearly, 3 missed calls. That one I just mentioned. But the bottom line is, you're right to bring that up. Najee Harris can't fumble. That any chance they had to make the game competitive and actually steal the game in Philly, it was done once he fumbled.
So the Eagles and Commanders, a huge game for Washington, and Philly's just rolling at 10 straight.
The NFL's current longest winning streak at 10 straight, you are correct. And the only concern they have injury-wise is Landon Dickerson, their left guard who left the game last week, didn't return against the Steelers. He's got a minor knee issue here. They're going to see if he can get through practice tomorrow. If he can, he'll play. If not, it'll be Tyler Steen, who's a draftee last year, who filled in for him in this game. Other than that, Britton Covey, who was the best punt returner in the National Football League last season, he's had a neck injury. He's missed the last 2 games. He's fine, but he's got to get cleared for contact. But for the Commanders, now this is big, and I'm sure Zach Ertz wants to play against his former team. Ertz has got a concussion, but the good thing is he worked today, Scott. He got some work in, so he's progressing through the protocol. Noah Brown at wide receiver, who was a starter for the Commanders, he's done. He got put on IR last week, so they're going with De'Ami Brown, who played at North Carolina, but not for Bill Belichick.
What about the Vikings and Seahawks at Lumen Field?
Yeah, this concerns me. Yes, Geno Smith will play at quarterback. By the way, for the Vikings, Stephon Gilmore looks like he's going to be able to play. Missed the last 2 games due to hamstring, and that's big with DK Metcalf on the other side. But this is what concerns me. Kenneth Walker at running back for the Seahawks. He's got this calf injury. He's missed the last 2 games. He's not cleared yet. And Zach Charbonnet has an oblique injury. Scott, I've had an oblique injury before. It's tough when you're running back. That is concerning for me. If Charbonnet who can't play, by the way, he reminds me of James Conner. Pretty good, pretty talented football player. Charbonnet, a second-rounder last year. They're in trouble anyway coming into this game. They're not playing great football. They got smoked last week. Even if Geno didn't get hurt, they still would have lost. They didn't play well. And the Vikings are yet another surprise, like the Broncos. The Vikings are still very live. They are tied. They are tied with the Lions in the NFC North.
It's time for another exciting edition, and this time a birthday edition of Bust a Cap in Your Ass. Now, I am coming off 20 spread covers in the last 2 weeks. So I have been in fuego. Let's start with Saturday with Adams plays. Houston and Kansas City at Arrowhead at 1 o'clock. Kansas City laying 3.5.
Like the Chiefs here, because we know Mahomes is going to start. The Texans offenses look pitiful. It's funny, the over-under is so low. That tells you the way that the odds makers see it, and I would agree with that. I see it a low-scoring game, but the Chiefs should cover this number.
The Steelers play in Baltimore. They're getting 6.5. Every game in the 8 of 9 that they've beaten Baltimore has been a one-score game. 18-16, the game I went to this year already, Steelers.
If Pickens was playing, I absolutely would have liked the Steelers here. This worries me. This number is too big, but I got to take a side. I'll take the Ravens here, minus a 6.5.
Fail. Sunday, let's start with the 1 o'clock games. Cleveland in the jungle against the Bengals, who've been playing pretty well. Can they get to 500? They're laying 8.5. They're 6-8.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Scott, you broke up. What game was that?
Cincinnati laying 8.5 to the Browns.
Yeah, and Thompson Robinson's not very good. I like the Bengals to cover this number.
Giants in Atlanta at the Benz. Atlanta laying 8.5 with Penix.
I love Penix in this game. They're going to be energized with Penix behind center. They win by double digits.
Arizona is in Charlotte against the Panthers. Arizona's laying 4.5.
Yeah, and Bryce Young did not play well last week. I like the Cardinals to cover this number. They need to win this, and they know it.
Detroit and Chicago at Soldier Field. The Lions have tons of injuries, but they're still laying 6.5.
Yeah, and boy, the Bears have a long losing streak. They're not playing well. I like the Lions, by the way. The only offensive player of note they're going to miss is David Montgomery. They'll be fine. They'll be able to cover this number.
Tennessee's at Lucas Oil against the Colts. The Colts are laying 3.5.
Yeah, and they got to change at quarterback. I have a slight lean towards the Colts in this game.
The Rams play the Jets at Jet Life in East Rutherford. The Rams are laying 3.
Yeah, I like the Rams, who know they need this game. They're trying to get the thing done there in the NFC West. I like the Rams to cover it.
Phillies at Washington, also at 1 o'clock. Eagles laying 3.5.
Can't believe this game was not flexed. I like the Eagles to take care of business here and to beat a team like Washington who's been very inconsistent lately.
Minnesota's at Seattle at 4:05 at Lumen. Vikings are laying 3.
Yeah, and Seattle no longer is a good home field. Remember the Giants, when Daniel Jones was the quarterback, went in and beat them pretty soundly. Yeah, I like the Vikings to take care of business here.
New England at Buffalo. Buffalo laying 2 touchdowns.
Boy, that's a big number, but Josh Allen's going off, and they go off, and they take care of business.
Vegas laying 1.5 to Jacksonville in Sin City.
I like Jacksonville to take care of business and actually cover this number.
San Francisco at Miami. Dolphins laying 1.
Like the Niners and Brock Purdy to get somehow figure out a way to win this game.
Sunday night in Dallas, Tampa and the Cowboys. Cowboys are getting 4.
Tampa, my team to win the division, as I picked before the season. They roll, and Tampa gets the job done.
Happy birthday, Adam!
Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because There is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. Because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I want the mid-major teams. I want the A-10 to get 3 bids. I want, the Missouri Valley Conference to get an extra bid. I want these teams to go ahead that are 1-bid leagues and give some of these other teams opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. Simply put, folks, when we get to the tournament, we don't care about all these teams that are big-time teams.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Leftovers. Everybody loves them.
Everybody does love leftovers, and I actually have some baseball for you in the leftover portion today. Why don't we start with yesterday at the stadium in the Bronx? The carving board was out. All the media there getting their free sliced roast beef under the hot lamp for Max Fried to be introduced as the newest member of the Yankee rotation. So proud to be putting on the pinstripes.
A sense of pride. A lot of people have worn these pinstripes, and there's a certain feel, and I'm excited about being able to put the pinstripes on in Yankee Stadium for the Yankees, and it's it's one of the most storied winning franchises in sports, and I want to be able to kind of do my part.
I hope he.
In adding to that.
God.
Honestly.
I hope he pitches better than he talks on the mic. I mean, geez, that's Max. He just gave you like $280 million. I mean, let's go. I mean, a little pep at the step here to get things going. Max. Snap out of it, Max. I mean, they didn't force you to take the 280. You're there in the Bronx. Here's Brian Cashman, of course. No Juan Soto. That's all right. We've made a ton of moves, and guess what, Scotty? He's not done.
So what's your message to Yankees fans this holiday season?
We're getting after it, and our intention is to find a way back to the World Series, and so stay tuned.
Here we go.
Stay tuned. Find a way back to the World Series.
They got their ass cooked in the World Series. It was so embarrassing.
They did. It was bad. But look, I will say, after losing him, I'll give them this. I still think they need to do more, but I think they've done a nice job rallying after losing Soto with some of the stuff that they've done so far.
I mean, what choice do we have than to accept it? They've done something. Yes. They didn't sit around and pick their noses.
Correct. They didn't just pocket the money. I'll add this one in, too, because I saw this earlier when the show started, and I wanted to throw it to you. The Cubs, I guess, have been disconnected from Sammy Sosa. Did you see this story today? Yeah. Like they've wanted nothing to do with him. They've wanted nothing to do with Sosa for like the last 15, 20 years because of he took steroids, and not that they all were in the late 90s and the early 2000s. So they told Sosa that if he apologized, they let him come to some fan fest or something that they could sell tickets to. So
No,
Sosa
thanks.
wrote a letter today apologizing for what he did. Yes, he did. And then, of course, Tom Ricketts and the Cubs said, welcome back with open arms, Sammy. We'll see you at Fan Fest. We'll bring you back to Wrigley. We'll do also Sammy Sosa back in the good graces with the Chicago Cubs, Scotty, after all these years. Everybody's very excited.
You got to admit, when he played for him, he was kick-ass. Here we go for Ella finish. Iowa retiring Caitlin Clark's number 22 in February. That didn't take long. Season 2 of The Penguin is in the works. That is fantastic news because I got to tell you, that is a kick-ass show. I love that guy. Colin Farrell, what is his name? Is that his name? Colin Farrell? He was awesome as the Penguin. What a just killer show. I couldn't wait every week for the new episode to come out. I think it was the best show I've seen on television in a couple of years. Fraudster posing as a Delta Force vet defrauded 32 victims out of 12 million by offering protection from drug cartels and the threats that they say he fabricated. Imagine that. A Connecticut cop found dead by suicide hours after he's busted for enticing a minor. Oh, heaven forbid. A Florida surgeon was supposed to take a man's spleen in a surgery. Whoops, he took his liver. Can you imagine waking up? He took your liver and my spleen still hurts, Doc. It's killing me. 2 kids die after falling through thin ice in upstate New York on a lake. How many times are we going to hear the story of people falling through ice on a lake? Why do you walk on a lake in the winter for any reason whatsoever unless you are a professional ice fisherman? One arrested after authorities raid a drug house with 12 kilos of fentanyl in the Bronx. The 5 boroughs. There's nothing quite like it. GTD is next. Get my app. It's badass. Search Ferrall. Everybody's doing it. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 on Coast to Coast.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.